Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to talk to you guys about the box office for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, before we get into this, I do want to remind you that if you really want to support my channel, please consider subscribing, hit that bell icon to let you know every single time I post a new video, like, share this video with as many people as possible, and it's really going to help the channel, and thank you so much for that if you already have subscribed, and if you did like this video, if you share this video, again, I can't thank you enough. With that said, let's get into this video. So, we are looking at the I've got BoxOffice Mojo opened up right here, and we are now looking at the box office for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, or at the very least, the box office for the first weekend of this film. Now, look, if you saw my review of the movie, you know that I wasn't a fan of this film. I did not like this movie. I thought it was a disjointed, convoluted mess. The acting was just bad throughout most of the film. There were some moments where I thought the acting was okay, but for the most part, I just it was not a good movie. It just wasn't. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the box office for the Rise of Skywalker and what it might mean for Lucasfilm moving forward. Now, look, it is not a secret, or it shouldn't be a surprise, that most people just do not like the direction that Lucasfilm has taken in the past few years, especially the way they've been acting within the 2 years since The Last Jedi and this film being released. People were just they are not happy with Lucasfilm. Okay, I mean, Lucasfilm has gone out there and just acted, in my opinion, completely unprofessional, and that just to a lot of people it was completely unacceptable. Not just to Star Wars fans. Fans of film in general saw the behavior of Lucasfilm and they just found it to be completely unacceptable. And because of that, I feel like this movie might not make as much money as Lucasfilm was probably hoping it would. Probably because, again, again, there are a lot of factors to consider why this the film didn't is probably not going to make as much money as Lucasfilm was hoping. I mean, it's still going to make a lot of money, just from Lucasfilm's perspective or from Disney's perspective, it's going to be a disappointment. It just will. And one of the factors is the how Lucasfilm has been behaving for the past 2 years before this movie even released. And it's just they found it unacceptable, and they probably just decided, you know what, look, even if I'm not that big of a Star Wars fan, I don't like the way you've been treating your fans or treating anyone who leveled any sort of criticism towards your films. I don't support that. So you know what? I'm not going to support you. And of course, there are hardcore Star Wars fans who obviously still did not like what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi, and the fact that Lucasfilm actually let that happen. They didn't like it, and because of that, a lot of them said, "You know what? I'm not interested in seeing The Rise of Skywalker," so they probably didn't go see it. Now, granted, there are people like me who went to go see it, even though I'm not a fan of how Lucasfilm's been acting. Even though I wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi, I still went to go see it because, I was gonna do the review, and I'm sure there are other people who probably have their own YouTube channels who went to go see it because they wanted to do the review for their channel. And so, even though there are hardcore fans of Star Wars who do not like the direction that Lucasfilm's taken, they probably still went to go see the film, and that probably went into the money that this film did make. Because I guarantee you that if those people didn't have channels where they review film, they probably wouldn't have gone to see The Rise of Skywalker, especially if they are not a fan of Lucasfilm, or at least current Lucasfilm. And other factors. One of the biggest factors that I think kind of hurt this film was the marketing. The marketing for this film, in my opinion, was horrible. It wasn't good. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. The trailer, the first trailer didn't really do much, and the second trailer, which was, I think it was released in. Actually, no, the first trailer was released in Star Wars Celebration, and the second trailer was released. It was, I think they first showed it at D23, but then they released it on they posted it on YouTube at their official channel. Then people were free to watch it. Both those trailers didn't really do anything. Like, they didn't do anything, in my opinion. If you saw them just from like a general audience perspective, not just a fan of, or if you're someone who doesn't know about what's going on behind the scenes with Lucasfilm, or if you don't know about all the drama between the fans and Lucasfilm, whether the fans who defend it or fans who go against it, if you don't know about any of that, and if you just look at the trailers, they're not good trailers. They didn't really sell you on the story. It's just it was, you can tell this was those trailers were obviously directed towards the hardcore Star Wars fans, but the problem is most of the Star Wars fans are completely turned off by your actions. So like they just weren't marketing towards the right people. I feel like if they marketed towards, like more of a general audience, like they should have made a trailer that at least gave you a basic idea as to what the story of the film might be. But they didn't. They tried to bank on nostalgia, and I think that ended up working against them because all those trailers did was remind people of how much they loved Lucasfilm. Before Disney bought it, they kept showing clips from the original trilogy, clips from the prequels, and all it did was remind them of what Star Wars used to be, and it just made them not like Lucasfilm even more. And I think again that sort of factored in as to why I feel like this movie might not make as much money as Lucasfilm is hoping it would be. I mean, I still think it's gonna make a hell of a lot of money. I've seen other YouTubers them predicting that this movie is gonna at least make a billion. And by the way, I probably follow a lot of the same YouTubers that you do, at least the ones who talk about Star Wars and what's going on in entertainment today. Um, and a lot of them, I've heard a lot of them say that this movie's probably still gonna break a billion, but it won't make as much as The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi made $1.3 billion at the box office. Some people are saying it's gonna make a little over a billion. Some people say probably 1.1, 1.2 billion. In my opinion, considering the first weekend, how much money it made, you can see it right here. It made over $177 million in the opening weekend, and look, that's to put that into perspective. The Last Jedi made. Hold on, just to put that into perspective, let's see what the Last Jedi made. Let's look at this, shall we? Let's just look at the opening weekend for the Last Jedi. Hold on, where is it? Here it is. Okay, opening weekend. Opening weekend, The Last Jedi made $220 million. That's opening weekend. Whereas you look at the Last Jedi, or excuse me, the Rise of Skywalker, it only made $177 million. Now that's significantly less. Not much, but it is a lot less than what the Last Jedi made. And if you look at it, this and the Rise of Skywalker opened in over 4,406 theaters. The Last Jedi, a little bit over, but not that much. Now again, I don't really think it's gonna play a bit of a factor in as to how much money the Rise of Skywalker is gonna end up making. But again, yeah, you can tell that it's tracking a lot. It's tracking behind the Last Jedi, which is just, and also not to mention this movie, it's just, I feel like the most people who are going to enjoy this movie are probably just the general audience, people who aren't really all that into Star Wars. Like they probably heard about Star Wars, they probably watched like the first three films. I'm willing to bet they haven't watched the prequels. I'm willing to bet they didn't watch the Clone Wars or Rebels. They probably only heard of the original trilogy and how people say it's the best, so they just watch those. Most people say the prequels were terrible, even though a lot of people enjoy them. And I still think you should watch them. Even if you are a hardcore fan of Star Wars, of course you're gonna watch the prequels. But the general audience, I'm willing to bet, has only ever seen the original trilogy, and they haven't seen anything else. They haven't gotten into the expanded universe. They didn't read any of the novels, the comics. They didn't play any of the games. And I feel like that's who this film feels like it's marketed towards, especially after seeing it, because the general audience is gonna go. They're gonna like grab a bucket of popcorn. They just got like over 2 hours to waste. Like they don't really have anything else to do. They're gonna sit down and they're probably gonna watch it, and that's it. But the problem is, you can only do that so many times. I think the reason why The Force Awakens made so much money is because, well, first of all, it was like the new Star Wars film after years of having absolutely no Star Wars films in the theater. So a lot of people obviously flocked to the theater, especially hardcore Star Wars fans. and they obviously went to go see it multiple times, to the point where it's still the highest grossing domestic box office of all time, at least in the U.S. And it's just, but then obviously a lot of people saw The Force Awakens, and some people were turned off of it because, they obviously saw, wait, this was just a rehash of A New Hope. And then, of course, but people were still excited for The Last Jedi, and then The Last Jedi happened, and the less said about that, the better. And then, well, here we are. A lot of people were pretty much turned off by The Last Jedi, even though you're probably hearing that this movie does have some moments where it's like an obvious direct contradiction to The Last Jedi. Even then, it's still only a few moments in what is a big, convoluted mess mess of a film. And it's just, and you can see, because I don't think this movie's gonna have long legs. I think it's just gonna make, like, probably the one thing that we should be keeping an eye on is the second weekend. Now that's coming up pretty soon, and not to mention it's Christmas. It's yeah, I don't think this movie's gonna make like a ton of money. This movie's not gonna make a ton. This movie's not gonna. It's not gonna make a billion. I don't think it's gonna break a billion. And it's sad. It's sad that this is where Star Wars is right now. But Lucasfilm made their bed, and now they have to sleep in it. This is the look. People kept trying to warn them for years not to behave the way they have been behaving. Let people criticize your product. There's nothing wrong with that. But they didn't listen. People criticized them. They went out there and they started calling them all of these horrible names. Ones that it used to be that you wouldn't call someone that unless like you knew for a fact, because now they throw around those words so many times that it's pretty much lost any meaning that it ever had. Because, well, I mean, that seems like the thing to do these days. But anyway, that's something else that I wanted to point out is, moving forward, considering the situation that we're in, considering that the fact that each Star Wars film keeps making less and less money than the one that came before it, I genuinely feel like Lucasfilm needs new direction. Look, whether you're a fan of Kathleen Kennedy or not, you can't deny that she hasn't done a good job when it comes to Star Wars. Okay, let her. I recommend you just let her leave. Let her walk out, work on anything else, and bring in someone who not only cares about Star Wars, but will at the very least, have like a vision for where they want to take Star Wars in the future. Have one singular vision instead of all of these scatterbrained people who don't really care about Star Wars. Like, they just say, look, just make a movie and put Star Wars stuff in it, people will go watch it, when in reality that's not what Star Wars is. Star Wars has always been about telling a good story. The story of someone with one singular vision, and back then it was George Lucas, but now, well, George Lucas sold the movie, and I still think he shouldn't have done that, because I mean, look, Disney already owns Marvel, Pixar, and whatever other companies they own now. It's just, and now they own Fox, and it's just because of that, they look at Star Wars as just another way to make money. They don't look at Star Wars as a way to, as a way to tell good stories that people love, stories that you normally wouldn't see back then. And because this is Disney, they just. And not to mention, they Disneyfied Star Wars, which I think was the biggest mistake they ever did. They should have kept Star Wars what it is. And you have people saying that. You have people saying that they, Star Wars was always for kids. Well, okay, yeah, that may have been the intention, but the thing is, the general audience fell in love with Star Wars. It became a point where anyone can watch it and they can fall in love with it. And by the way, to anyone who says that, well, Star Wars is just for kids, why are you worrying about it? Okay, so let me get. Star Wars is for kids, and Disney is a company that is for kids, or makes content primarily aimed at children. But it is aimed at children, but they also make films that, any person can watch it, and they can enjoy it, and that is true. That is true. The problem is when you look at Star Wars before 2015, when George Lucas sold it, or excuse me, 2012 when George Lucas sold it, and then after 2012, or after Lucas sold it. Go back and look at those Star Wars films again, and you're gonna see there's a big difference. Like, again, really think about some of the things that happened in the prequels. In Empire Strikes Back, you saw the main hero get his hand cut off. And then it was revealed that the person who did that was not only the second most evil person in the entire galaxy, it turns out that was his own father who did that to him. And now he's telling him, come join me, and we'll basically go rule the galaxy with an iron fist. Like, this guy just found out that his father is the second most evil person in the entire galaxy. And then in the third film, he has to fight his father even after he keeps trying to convince him to join him or to remember who he is, because he still believes that there's good inside him. Like, he's just like the Anakin Skywalker is still there. He's not completely gone. And then you see like a father remembering who he is and then taking down the person who turned him into this, and then getting rid of him, but it comes at the cost of his own life. And Luke basically watches his own father die right in front of him. And again, this is the movie that you keep saying is for kids. All of that stuff happens in Star Wars. And I think that's why, like, most people watch it and enjoy it. Like, even though it's intended for kids, you watch something like that and it's something that anyone can watch and relate to. It's what made Star Wars so as big as it was. And then you look at the prequels, you see Anakin, who in Attack of the Clones, you see him watching his, like, he finally sees his mother again after being away for years, and just when he thinks he'll finally free her and she'll finally be able to live her own, she'll finally be free, he gets there in time just to watch her die. And then in the third film, he gets so desperate to stop the person that he loves from dying that he ends up becoming a bad guy because he believes it's the best way to save her, and he has to end up fighting his best friend, and it leads to him pretty much getting his left arm and both his legs chopped off by his best friend, and he gets burned alive to the point of now he can't even live outside the suit. And it's just, he's basically in a prison. And that was done to him by the person he considered to be his best friend. And again, granted, it was his actions that led to this, but he always had good intentions. And again, this was all, like you said, this was for kids. So, and again, like, my question is, why can't Disney do that with Star Wars now? I mean, this is my problem with current Disney, is they're too afraid to go there. Like, if you go back and you look at past Disney, like, if this was past Disney, like, or at least pre-Bob Iger, and if you look at the films they put out, even though they were for kids, they had some pretty dark stuff in those films. And like, but if you look at Disney films now, I mean, you have maybe one or two that may deal with some pretty dark themes, but most of them are all this kid-friendly, accessible. It's just, Disney right now is playing it too safe. They're playing it too safe. They're afraid to put those themes or to have those things in their films because they're afraid it might turn off, the general audience, even though that just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop it here. This video went on for way too long, and we kind of got off topic. But yeah, so Lucasfilm, you need new direction. After this, Lucasfilm definitely needs new direction. So with that being said, I'm gonna end this. Oh boy, I'm gonna end this video right here. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe. bell icon to let you know every single time I post a new video. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me on my next one. Bye.